What is going on, YouTube? It's your boy Tyler underscore TCG back at it again with another video, and today's video is very, very fun and special. Today we are going to be looking at my boy Todd's Kashtira deck post Banlist and pre Photon Hypernova. Todd, how are you doing today, my friend?
Hello, I'm doing swell.
And also joining us, we have Mikey. Say hello, Mikey.
I'm just here, so I won't get fined.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Todd, please give us the thought process of this deck. Like explain what the cards do, what the deck can do, and why your choices on these certain cards are.
So the Kashtira Runick deck that I built is specifically built to use the Kashtira's effects of banishing your opponent's cards face down, and making them not and take away the resources slowly. And it's kind of a control deck. It's 100% a control deck. How you can play either of two ways of getting advantage by using your runic spells and making your opponent banish cards to keep making them banish their resources and eventually mill them out. Or you can do what the Kashtira stuff is, which is this like lock every one of their zones slowly. You can eventually lock down all their zones except their extra monster zones, which is a lot of fun. What was it? I think it was like 2 weeks ago at a locals. I actually milled somebody out playing this exact build, and not this exact build because this is post the ban list, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I'll tell you that. It was hilarious.
All right, so let's get into the individual card by card. So we have the your standard Bestial package, the one Druce Worm, and the three Magnamuts. Now, how many times throughout locals would you say you've drawn these, like the Bestial cards?
I've drawn them almost every time I've opened a hand, but to be 100%, sometimes they're just dead weight because everybody else is also playing Bestial cards. So the one thing that does suck about the Bestial cards specifically in this deck is that they're not level 7s. Um, so like for example, if like you target one of your opponent's cards and they also respond to their own Bestial, they got a body, you don't, and then like you're just essentially dead unless you like draw something nuts or you play your runic cards or you have something on the field, which kind of sucks. But like, I mean, we always gotta play it just in case. You know what I mean? We gotta stop that she's a tier.
All right, so now we're going to move on to 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. Which, how do you feel about Dimension Shifter with your conflict with the Runic cards? Since Dimension Shifter will banish the Runic cards as well as like the 3-dimensional Fissure and the 2 Macrocosmos. How do you feel that those cards will conflict with your Runic engine?
So the macrocosmo and the shifter, honestly, it does kind of suck, but you get so much advantage at that point just playing the Kashtira stuff that like you kind of use the runic cards as like a last resort just to protect your Kashtira cards or like to interrupt your opponent more effectively. The runic cards honestly are more there to like get your draw engine and to make sure you have resources and say no enough times to your opponents that they can't play the game. The shifter stuff is and the shifter and macrocosmos, both cards that just say no. So I mean, that's the reason.
Okay, I got you. And then we have 1 copy of Gizmek Uka, the Festive Fox of Festunity. Sure. So explain this card for me for the deck.
So this card is low key insane. So later on in the profile, we'll read Kashtira Birth, which just says you can normal summon one level 7 monster without tributing. It is not restricted to Kashtira cards. So like this card is really good for time because I mean it inflicts 300 to your opponent each time they do essentially anything. And also the thing that also comes up a good amount of times is the Gizmek Uka, the effective special summon from deck. You can special summon this card from hand. If your opponent ever plays like a deck that like cares about uh the special summoning card from main deck, it will come up. And then the last effect of like the normal summon, like the target of one of your opponent's cards, is kind of nice. It's just like a really cool like level 7 and like does a few things for time, but also the fact is also another level 7 will come up a good amount of times.
Okay, cool. So now we move on to the Kashtira part of the deck. So we have 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir, probably the best one, and then we have 2 copies of Kashtira Ogre and 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. So a lot of people know what Fenrir does already. So do you want to just quickly go over Ogre and Unicorn?
Yeah, so I'll go over Ogre first. So what Ogre does is that he looks at top 5 of your opponent's deck, and you activate the top 5 card of your opponent's deck, and then you banish one card face down, put back the cards in the same order that you saw them. So the reason why that really matters is because like sometimes like for example, yet example, I'm gonna use a Shizu tier. You can choose like their Rhino Heart, and if they already use their Rhino Heart, you're just gonna keep getting rid of their Rhino Heart and keep stopping them from using like their really cool like one or two ofs, which comes up a lot. And Ogre is also really nice to search for preparation. Preparation is low key insane because whenever your opponent activates a trap card, you can just look at their hand and rip one face down. So you get your opponent's top 5 card information, and you also get a card to search at your opponent's hand. It gives you more information. Like information is the name of the game in every card game known to man. Why would you not want more information? That's why Ogre is at 2 compared to it being at 1. Some people want him at 1. I like him at 2 because yet again he's a level 7 that can discard for like 7 swords, and also he gets like an insane trap card.
Okay.
Yeah. As for Unicorn, I personally think that every deck should be running 3 Fenrir and 1 Unicorn, because Unicorn is insane as well. Just because, like, when your opponent activates a monster effect, because all Kashtira effects activate when your opponent activates a monster effect, you look at your opponent's extra deck and you banish 1 card to face down is really good. So the thing is, the reason why that kind of matters is because you can like take out all their one ofs, and it comes out a good amount of times where you can just take out all their one ofs or like their two ofs. Like for example, like there was a match where on my turn, I looked at their deck and they used Havanus. I took out their Kid Kalos. As if you guys watched the gameplay the other day, in the Kashtira deck when I was in the finals against Doolittle, I used Unicorn when he used Havanus, took out his Kid Kalos, and then took out his Garuda, so he couldn't fusion summon when he had Field Spell in the field, so he couldn't destroy my back row, which was Summon Limit. That was specifically why I chose Garuda over like Kaleido Heart, because Kaleido Heart is scary and everything, but there was like no real way for him to make it right then and there. And I was more scared of him destroying like my back row than him getting more resources, because I can just eventually get rid of them later on.
Okay.
And that is why Unicorn is insane.
All right. So then, so now we explain the Kashtiras. Now we go to the next little tech choice of yours. We play 2 copies of Side Beast, and this is just when it's normal summon, you can remove from play 1 second monster from your deck. This card's level becomes the same level as that monster. So I'm assuming this helps just turbo out level 7 like Xyz monsters. If I had to guess.
Well, there's not even just that. It's also just like it's low key a plus in this deck because of Kashtira Birth. Kashtira Birth says you can special summon from your banish as well. So you use Side Beast, you banish like let's say like Fenrir, and if you have like banish on the field, you can just if you have Birth on the field, you just summon back Fenrir and you have a level 7 play right there.
Oh, so it just like, helps you get your engine online.
Yeah, 100%. And like if you use Psychic Beast, you're always banishing Fenrir because Fenrir just searches for everything else that's a monster. Which is really nice, and you should always do that. Psychic Beast is like low-key popping.
Okay, cool. So then let's move on. We got the 3 copies of Dimensional Fissure freshly off the ban list, and then we have 2 Kashtira Birth if you want to run over this card one more time.
Yeah, so Birth is insane. I think this is probably one of the best cards in the deck, other than Fenrir. So it's the fact that 1, you can almost summon 8 level 7 without stripping, which is really nuts. And then you can also special summon a non-Xyz Kashtira from Banish or Graveyard, which does come up a lot because you are banishing. If your opponent ever gets rid of your Kashtira cards, you never run out of gas because they're either going to Graveyard or Banish, so like they have like no else other than the shuffling it. And the thing that comes up the most is the last effect. If your opponent activates a spell card or effect, and you control a Kashtira monster, you can target 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard and banish them. This is so good. You kill Tri-Brigade, you kill Sprite, you just banish 3 cards face down. It is absolutely insane. The fact that this comes up a good amount of times is nuts. Like, especially like if your opponent is playing like Ishizu tier as well. You can banish 3 of their targets that would come up for like fusion summoning or anything like that, which does come up a good amount of times. This card is absolutely insane.
All right, cool. So now we'll move on to the Runick part of this deck. So we play 2 copies of Runick Destruction. 3 copies of Runick Flashing Fire, 3 copies of Runick Fountain, 3 copies of Runick Freezing Curses, the 1 Runick Slumber, and then we're playing the 3 copies of Runick Tip. Now, if you were to change any of these ratios of the Runick cards, what would they be?
Honestly, I might put like take out Runick Slumber and kind of put it like a droplet. The Runick Golden Droplet, just because like the your opponent does search your deck a few times, which is really nice. Just
Okay.
because like Runick Droplets is like a really good card. It's like, oh, your opponent like draws a card, but like sometimes you need that extra like power to like banish 4 cards off the top of your deck just to like just kill them. Because especially yet again, Ashizu Tears going through their deck so fast that like you want these really big cards that like essentially like Droplet says banish says neg your opponent 5, which you're going down to like 20 plus cards. You just activate all your Runick cards and your Kashtira cards, you're banishing most of their deck, which is really nice.
Okay. And now, how do you feel about 3 Runick Fountain?
So, the Runick Fountain, to be 100% with you, is I might cut it down to 2. It's like 2 or 3 is like really nice. The thing is just like you do kind of always want to see it, but if you don't have a Runick card, it's kind of dead, which is super unfortunate. But the thing is like you run the fountains aren't really for um you activate Runick spells from your hand. It's for the consistency of putting cards in your bottom of your deck and then drawing cards. Because honestly, the fountain's just like as long as you get like 1 Runick card and then like 2 Kashtira cards, your opponent can't play.
All right, cool. And now we move on to 1 copy of Sacred Sword of 7 stars. Is there a reason you're only playing the 1 copy currently, or?
There is so many reasons. So the reason why I'm only playing 1 is because I had it at 3. Then, as you can tell, there's not that much level 7s other than the Kashitiras and the Gizmex in the deck. So you can't really, like, just banish the cards and then, like, draw 2. Which, yet again, because of Birth and, like, all your other Kashitira cards, it's not really a neg. Because you're just going to summon them back. So this card's just, like, infinite value. But the thing is like, if you have, like, 2 of this card in your hand, and you have no level 7s, they're just dead. There's a lot of more times where it's dead than it's not. And the thing is, like, you're already drawing a bunch off the Runick Fountain. So, like, it's really just like, oh, we have 4 copies of Runick Fountain. Like, to be 100% with you.
All right, cool. So then we move on to 1 copy of Terraforming, 2 copies of Macrocosmos, and then 1 copy of Kashtira Preparations. Have you thought about bumping this card up to like a 2, or is just the 1 of good enough for you?
So I was thinking about putting Preparations to 2. To be 100% with you, the 1 is really nice. Just because sometimes you have Birth and Preparation, and your opponent just like can't do anything. Especially special summoning Kashtira during your opponent's turn is insane. Just because like they don't know what piece you're gonna come up with, which is really nice. The trap effect, it doesn't really come up that often, which is okay. But the thing is, when it does pop off, you're winning that game. If your opponent activates a trap card, you're winning that game. You just see their entire hand. You have so much information. You just got a Kashtira card that can vanish either from deck, grave, or field. It's just like Preparation is like really good, but I think because it's I have it at 1 off just because it is searchable through like 3 cards in the deck. There's just really no reason to run more than 2. You can run it at 1, you can run it at 2. It all depends on what you want your ratios to be.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll move on to the side deck real quick. We have 1 Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. We have 3 copies of Lava Golem. We have 2 copies of Lightning Storm. We have 1 copy of Soul Absorption for Time. We have 2 copies of Different Dimension Ground, 3 copies of Evenly Match, and 3 copies of Summon Limit. Now, moving down to the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Freki the Runick Fangs, 2 copies of Gary the Runick Fangs, 1 copy of Hugin the Runick Wings. We have 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. We have 2 copies of Kashtira Shangri-Ira. So you want to run over this card real quick, besides it just being a 3,000 booty?
So, Shangri-Ira special summons the Kashtira during the standby phase. So that's during mine and our opponent's standby phase. So the reason why that matters is that like you usually end your field with like 1 Kashtira Shangri-Ira and like either another Kashtira name. So that you can get either like Ogre, Unicorn, or Fenrir on the field. So it just makes it so you have at least 2 other banishes on the field. So you can lock 2 more zones. And if you have Birth and Preparations, you're locking 4, which is really nice. the thing that's like also really cool that you can play with this deck, especially with these special summoning like a bunch of these level 7s. You can overlay Stronger Era. You can have Stronger Era on the field, and you can have Diabolos, which is also in the extra deck. Diabolos is insane if you have Stronger Era on the field because you banish 2 during your turn, locking 2 zones, and then you do it during your opponent's turn if they activate like a monster effect because you're obviously your Kashtira cards. So you're gonna be locking 2 more zones because of Diabolos. So like you can lock that's like 2, 4, 5. You can lock like 5 to 6 zones on average. So you can lock all their main monster zones in like one spell trap zone. It's just absolutely despicable.
All right, cool. So then we have the one copy of Big Eye, one copy of Odd Eye's Absolute Dragon, one copy of Odd Eye's Rebellion Dragon, one copy of Odd Eye's Rebellion Dragon Overlord for the OTK. We have one copy of Raid Raptor Arsenal Falcon. We have one copy of Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon for time. So now, when the new support comes out in Photon Hypernova, do you see a lot of changes coming for this deck, or is it probably going to be like the same thing? Or are you still going to be playing the Runick engine, or is it going to be more like a pure version?
The thing is, when the Hyper Supernova comes out and we get our new Exceeds monster, the Runic engine is no longer gonna be just a draw engine. It's now gonna be part of the Kashtira engine because the new card just only cares about banished cards, not only just face down cards, which is really nice. So like you also getting your banishes off of the Runic cards just makes you plus so much.
All right, cool. Mikey, do you have any questions for Todd about this very fun Runick Kashtira deck?
I have a question.
Okay.
No question, boy.
How fun is this deck?
Oh my god, this deck is so much fun.
All right.
Would you elaborate?
To be exact, so the other deck I used to play before this was Punks, and I had a lot of fun playing that. As a new player, so my favorite like archetype is like psychics from when I was a kid. I've always like loved psychics and banishing stuff. This deck is like a lot of fun just because I do like control decks, and it is a very controlly deck, and it is a definition of interaction. The reason why this deck is a lot of fun just because you have so many choices and you have so many options compared to like every control deck they used to come out. It's just like, oh, play floodgates, do this, do that. This is not like that at all. This is literally micromanaging everything so you use your deck to your most efficient way.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching today's deck profile. For myself, Todd, and Mikey, we'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.